We are on 23. Chav Gimel Amud Bet, about half of the way through the page, where the Gemara says, right after the Mekarva Haniyata, about smack in the middle of the wide lines. Inami Ahu Biyoni, Dehabu B'Shivrutan. You see it?
Yeah, B'Shivrutan is the first word on the line, right?
Exactly. Now, we are now at the last two words on the line, Hanan HaNechba. And that is on, if you're following in the art scroll, Hanan HaNechba is on 23b2. Says the Gemara, Hanan HaNechba, Hanan the hidden, Bar Barte, the Choni HaMa'agal Hava. He was the son of the daughter of Choni HaMa'agal, so his grandson. If you remember, we talked about Choni HaMa'agal's grandson, and the fact that he came to the door, and when he said that my grandson, is my son here, they said no, his son is alive. His son's not alive, but his grandson's alive. So it might be this grandson, because we already learned about one of his grandsons. When they needed it to rain, the rabbis would send the young children from school, and they would take the edges of his robe, and they would say to him, Abba, Abba, Father, Father, Havlan Mitra, give us rain. So why did they do that? They did it in order to kind of get him a little bit more in tune with his prayers, that the children are coming to beg for water. But he said in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the world, Aseh b'shvil elu, do it for these, she'en makirim ben Abba d'Yahir Mitra, le'Abba de'lo Yahir Mitra. They're calling me father and asking me for rain. Do it for the children who were so young and innocent that they don't know the difference between an Abba that brings rain and an Abba that doesn't bring rain. Okay? Amma lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He said in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay? So why do they call him Hanan the hidden? Because he would hide himself in the bathroom. So what does this mean? He would hide himself in the bathroom? There's two different nuschaot here. One nusach is that he would hide himself in the bathroom, meaning that when he would go to the bathroom, he was so careful with tzniut, so he wasn't just go to the bathroom, he would only reveal a part of his skin that needed to be revealed to go to the bathroom. So if he would uncover a part, he would then cover the other part because that didn't need to be revealed. He was such a tzanua person that therefore his prayers were answered. The other opinion says it doesn't have the word bet like he said, he would hide himself in the bathroom. Machbiat small means he would hide himself, he would make himself humble. He didn't want people to find him, he didn't want people to know who he was. And therefore maybe the only people that would come to see him, as the Gemara says, is the rabbis would have to send the young people. But it wasn't that regular people knew who he was because he was hidden. Amar le Rav Zvika le Rav Safra. Rav Zvika said to Rav Safra, Tel Chazi, come see, ma ben takifet Ari Israel. What's the difference between the strong ones, the land of Israel, the Chasidei Bavel, to the pious ones, to the righteous ones from Bavel, from Babylonia? Chasidei Bavel, the righteous ones from Bavel, Rav Huna and Rav Chizda. They went by the names of Rav Huna and Rav Chizda. When the people, when the world would need rain, Amri, they would say, Nichnif Hadari, let's all get together, and we'll ask for prayers together. If maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu will find favor with us, in order that rain should come. So they would gather everyone together to pray, and they would do it in a public way. Takif Hadari Israel, but the strong ones in the land of Israel, Kigon, Rav Yonah, Abu Rav Mani, Rav Yonah, the father of Rav Mani, when their people would need rain, the Mikra, they say they would come to his house, the Amalu, and they would say, Havli, he would say, Havli Gavalki, go bring me my bag, my knapsack. The answer Bezuza Ibura, and I'm going to go buy some food for a zuz. A zuz is a lot of money, and it meant that the prices at the marketplace had gone high because of the lack of rain. But he would tell them, I'm going to the marketplace to buy something. When he would get outside, he would find a place which was very deep, an indentation, a valley, a place that was low. To fulfill that which it says, I call you Hashem from the depths. And he would stand in a place which was very hidden, so no one would see him. It wasn't just a valley where everybody was, but it was a valley also, and it was hidden. And the chasedas b'saka, he would cover himself over with sackcloth. Ubayi rachami, and he would beg for mercy from God. Ve'ati mitra, and the rain would come. Ki havi'ati lebete, when he would come back to his house, amrile, they would say to him, Aiti mari vura, did you bring the food that you said you went out to buy? They had no idea where he went. Amalahu, he said to them, Amina, I felt hoeva tamitra. Now that I saw that it actually started raining, hashta rabach alma. Now there's more in the world, and therefore it's a shame to buy at the very high prices. The two, but he would hide it from everybody. Okay. Now the crazy thing is, what we're seeing here is that there was a difference in style between the pious ones of Bavel and the strong ones of Eretz Israel. The pious ones of Bavel, they were very well known to everybody, and they did their miracles in a very public way. They got everyone together for Yom Tefillah. Whereas the righteous ones of Israel, they were much more quiet about who they were and their value and their powers. And therefore, they would hide it when they would go to pray. Now, the interesting thing is, the Gemara seems to be saying that one of these two, was pious and humble, and the other, the Chasidei Bavel, were not like that. They did it out in public. But perhaps there's another way of understanding that each one of them was doing it with humility. But there was two ways, two procedures, two thought processes, what the best way was to hide your greatness. One idea is, don't tell anybody, hide, go to the valley, go to a quiet place, pray, play a game, don't let anyone realize, tell them you went shopping. And the other way of looking at it was very different. No, hide in plain sight. Arrange a massive day of tefillah with 50,000 people praying. Now, how can anyone prove that had anything to do with your prayers? Maybe it was the tefillah of the Rabin. Maybe there was a different tzaddik mixed in. There was no way for it to be traced back to you. So it could be that both of them were masters of humility. And the only question is how the righteous of Bavel got there and how the strong ones in Eretz Israel and the Eretz Israel got there. Okay? It's a chidush in the Gemara. And the Gemara continues and starts telling us now that it mentioned that one of the strong people in Eretz Israel was Rabbi Yonah, the father of Rabbi Mani. So now we're going to learn a little bit about Rabbi Mani and his father. This man, Rabbi Mani, the son of Rabbi Yonah, the people that came from the house of the Rish Giluta, the Nasi, they were bothering him. They were driving him crazy for whatever reason. He went to pray by the grave of his own father. Amarle, he said, Abba, Abba, father, father. Ani mitzarule, they're driving me crazy. They're causing me pain. Yom achad, one day, those people were passing by the grave of Rabbi Yonah, that Rav Mani, his son, had prayed to his father that they were torturing him, they were bothering him. Inkut kara desusvatayu, the legs of their horses became stuck, like they couldn't move. They're stuck in this place. The people, obviously they were righteous people, or they were learned people. They looked around, they said, what's going on here? They realized that they were right outside the grave of Rabbi Yonah, the father of Rabbi Mani. They put two and two together. Until they accepted on themselves that they're not going to drive him crazy anymore. That was the power of the tefillot of Rabbi Yonah, the father of Rabbi Mani, that he was able to do this for his son even after he passed away. But two, another story. Rav Mani have a shliach kamed Rav Yitzchak ben Eliashib. Rav Mani used to study a lot with the Rav Yitzchak ben Eliashib. Amalei, he said, Atiri debechami, the rich people from my in-laws, kametzarule, they're driving me crazy, they're putting me down, they're abusing me. Amar, Rav Yitzchak ben Eliashib, his Rebbe, said, Le'anu, let them become poor then. Because he said, the rich people from my father-in-law's house, Le'anu, let them become poor. Ve'ianu, says the Gemara, they became poor. Amar, kadachule, now that they were rich, they're coming, driving me crazy, asking me to support them because they have no money. Amar, ya'atru, let them become rich again. Ya'atru, and they became rich. Amar, lo mikabli alai inshi beti. My wife at home, the people of my home, i.e., referring to his wife, lo mikabli alai. They're not favorable in my eyes. Amar, He said, what is your wife's name? Mashma Chana. He said, Chana. Okay, says the rabbi. Tityapi Chana. Let her become beautiful. Then it yapit, and she became beautiful. Amale, what happened after she became beautiful? Kamigandra. Alai. Now that she was all full of herself, so now she started driving him nuts, and she started looking down on him. That he wasn't as beautiful as she was. So he went back to the rabbi. Amale, the rabbi said, if that's how she's acting now, let her return back to the way she was before. Let her return to being back normal. And she went back to being her average self, the one that she was before the prayers of Rabbi Yitzchak ben Eliashiv. Now, what's wild to me is that you're reading here about the rabbis of Yerushalayim who were capable of great powers of tefillah. But what struck me is, look at the prayers that they're saying. He said, the rich people are driving me crazy, they're abusing me. Says the rabbi, li'anu, one word, let them become poor. Boom, li'anu, and they became poor. Rabbi, they're coming to me, they're expecting me to support them. I don't have the money to support them now, Rabbi, because they're poor. Li'atiru, let them become rich. Li'atiru, one word. And his power is not just in kilala, so you could think that it's only Ayin Hara that's doing this, because both Ayin Hara and Ayin Tov, it worked for the curse, it worked for the blessing. In either scenario, you wind up seeing that they were able to do and achieve so much with one word of their prayers. The Gemara continues with the strength of the prayer of Rabbi Yitzchak ben Eliashiv. There were two students, they came in front of Rabbi Yitzchak ben Eliashiv. Amru, they said, please, our master, plead for mercy for us. That we should become very wise. He said to them, the power was with me to bless and to pray like your wishes, and it got sent away. Either the simple interpretation is, I used to have it, but I lost it. But a deeper understanding, which actually matches the word more correctly, is v'shilachtia, and I sent it away. After Rabbi Yitzchak ben Eliashiv saw what happened with his student, with Rav Mani, where he asked for the people, he had problems with people. They were rich, they were bothering him. He said they become poor. They became poor, it was bothering him. Let them become rich. He has a problem with his wife, let her become beautiful. Let her become less black the way she was. In every scenario, the person is exactly where they were. Suddenly you realize that messing with God's plan actually doesn't improve the situation. So it's, this way you have one challenge, that way you have another challenge. And actually it might be that you're better off with the situation being as it is. So says Rabbi Yitzchak ben Eliashiv to these two students that are asking for the blessing of great wisdom, he says, I had that power. I didn't want anything to do with it. Once I saw that I was tampering with God's plan and not necessarily to better effect. But Yossi bar Avin, Yossi bar Avin, another great scholar, used to learn all the time with Rav Yossi from the place of Yukra. Okay, Shavke, he left him. He came in front of Rav Asher. We are now on page Chavdalin Amud Aleph, 24 A, and if you're following in the art scroll, 24A1. Yom Achad, one day, Shame'edika Garis, he heard that he was saying over the halakha Rav Ashi. Shmuel says, someone pulls a fish out of the sea on Shabbat, kivin shiavish bukitzela chayav. Now the Gemara is assuming here that the problem here is that we're talking about that the person is killing the fish. So killing something on Shabbat is a melacha, and at the point where you've killed the thing, chayav, then you become obligated to gain forgiveness, to get a korban if you did it by accident, etc., etc. So what's the chiyuv? The chiyuv is killing the fish. At what point is the fish considered to be dead? Says Shmuel, from the time that you find yavesh bukesela, that there's a amount on the fish which is completely dry, the size of a selah coin. At that point, if it's dried out to that point, that there's that much of the fish that's dry, the fish is dead. Even if you chuck it back in the water, there's no way it's going to come back to life because it's already dried. It already dried too much. Someone's raising their hand. Is that a mistake? Someone wants to ask a question? Oh, okay. I'm not sure if that was a mistake. NL is raising their hand. I'm not sure why. You have to unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. Is that available? Okay. Done.
There we go. What? Maybe the problem is trapping and not killing.
Excellent question. Maybe the problem is trapping. Then the Gemara, the proof that that's not the problem is because if the problem is trapping, then it wouldn't matter how dry it is. Even before you killed the fish, you already trapped it. So from the fact that Shemuel is saying that the problem begins chayav when it starts to dry out, it must be a scenario where you caught the fish before Shabbat. It was in the water in the nets. So when you lifted the nets, you took it out of the water. I already trapped it before Shabbat. So trapping is not my problem. My problem here is killing the fish. But it's an excellent question you're asking. But we're proving from Shemuel that the case here that he was talking about is when it was already trapped from before. Okay? So from the time that it dries out Kesela, Chayav. Amaleh, Rav Yossi Bar Avi said to Rav Ashi, who just said over the halakha, in the name of Shmuel, Amaleh, how come you don't add Uben Sanapirav, that the part which is dry needs to be between its fins? I'm guessing that the reason why he held that way is because if the dry part is at the bottom of the fish, it hasn't yet reached the main organs of the fish, and the fish could go back in the water and still survive. But if the dryness is in the middle of the fish, ben snapirav, between its fins, at that stage, then it's going to definitely be considered dead, and that's when you're chayav. Amar le Rav Ashi said to him, "V'lo sava lamar dehahir of Yossi bar Rabbi Avi namra." Don't you know that what you just added was something that was said by Rav Yossi ben Rabbi Avi? And if you're going to say over what he said, Ben Snapirav, then you should have said it in his name, because we'll always say something that we learn in the name of the person who said it, because that brings the Mashiach closer. So therefore, if you know that already, you probably also know that it was said by Rav Yossi bar Avin. So why don't you say it in the name of Rav Yossi bar Avin? Amaleh Ananihu. That's me. Rav Ashi did not know that this man who said the halakha was now studying in his class. Amalei, Rav Ashi said to him, don't you usually study with Rabbi Yossi from Yukrat? Why are you here in my class if you're his student? Amalei, he said, yes. Amalei, my time is Shaf Gemar. So then why did you leave him and come here? Amalei, he said to him, Gavra de albire ve albarte lochas, a person who on his own son and his own daughter does not have mercy. How's he going to have mercy? How's he going to worry and take care of me, one of his students, if on his own children, his son and his daughter, he didn't have mercy? He asked the Gemara, what's he talking about? What is the story behind this claim? Yom Achad, the master of Yossi ben Yukrat had workers that were hired in the far off in the desert. Nagalahu, right? And after hiring them and and working out in the field, okay, in the far off field away from the town, it came time for food. He didn't bring them bread. They said to the son, Kafinan, we're very hungry. They were sitting under a fig tree, under a fig tree, excuse me. They're sitting under a fig tree. Amar, the son of Rabbi Yossi min Yukrat said, Te'ena, fig tree. Hotzii perotayich. Stick out your fruit, okay, before it's time. And let the workers of dad eat the fruit that comes forth. Apiku, the fruits came out miraculously from the tree before their time. And the workers ate the figs. Meanwhile, Rabbi Yossi ben Yukrat came. Don't be upset at me in your minds. The fact that I tarried, I was late, is because I was busy with a big mitzvah, the ad hashtahu tagai. And it took me until now to be able to complete it, to be able to arrive. Amru leh, they said to him, Rachmana l'sabiach, kihecha disba'an derach. Don't worry, God should be able to bring you, to forgive you, fulfill you, the same way that your son satisfied us. Amalu mehecha, where did he get food to satisfy you? Amru, they said, Hachi v'hachi havemase. This is exactly what happened. Amar lo, Bini, he said, my son, Atai trachta et konecha, you bothered your master, leotzi te'ena perodesh lo bizmana. You made the fig tree, you made your master be busy with a fig tree to take care of your needs. Shelo bizmana, not at its time. Asif shelo bizmano. You also will become taken before your time for that act. Now, whether or not Rabbi Yossi ben Yukrat was saying it as a curse, or Rabbi Yossi ben Yukrat was saying this is the punishment you're going to receive for treating God like a vending machine, is unclear. But what is clear is that Rabbi Yossi ben Yukrat had a very strict outlook at what had happened with his son. The rabbi had said that he doesn't have mercy on his son and his daughters. That's the story with his son. What's the story with his daughter? Havile Barta, he had a daughter, Ba'alat Yofi, she was very beautiful. Yom Achad, one day, Chazia Lahugav, he sees this guy, he's making a hole in the fence. And he's staring at his daughter. Yani peeping Tom. Okay? Amarlo, he says to this guy, my hi, what are you doing? Amar le, Rebbe, he said to him, Rabbi, if I can't marry, I can't have such a beautiful woman, a beautiful wife, at the very least, let me look at her. Amar le, the rabbi said, Yossi, Amar la, he said to her, Biti, my daughter, you're causing pain to the briot, to the creations. Shuvi la'afraich, return to your dust. Ve'ali kashlu lach dich, b'nei adam. And people should not stumble over you, should not sin because of you. Again, unclear. Is he saying to her this should happen to her? Or is he saying better that you should return to your earth than you should be the cause of other people sinning over you? Maybe you're overtly flaunting, your beauty. Maybe you're, making it more sexualized than it needs to be. But that's not something that you should be doing. Shuvi la'afraich. If that's the case, it was better off that you wouldn't be here. Maybe he was giving her harsh musar, but in either scenario, you see clearly that it was that Rabbi Yossi ben Yukrat was very harsh, and he did not act in a merciful way with his son and with his daughter. So therefore, to return to his student, Rabbi Yossi bar Avi, therefore he left him because he felt I can't stand with such a strong midat hadin. I'm going to go instead to Rav Ashi, and that's what brought him to this place. Now the Gemara continues. This Rav Yossi bar Yukras had a donkey. Every day, people would rent it. They would send back whatever the cost was to rent a donkey. They would send it back on the donkey. And it would come back to the house of Rabbi Yossi ben Yukrat. Tafula or batzrila, if they overpaid, if they gave too much, taftfe, or batzre, or if they gave too little, lo atya, it wouldn't come, it wouldn't move. Yani the donkey, he was so holy as a person, even if he was very, very strict, even overly so, but he was so holy as a person that his donkey was able to sense that was the right amount. Okay, now I'm going to go. Or that's not enough, I'm not going to leave. The donkey was already, now we have smart appliances in the home. Your refrigerator, it's all connected to Wi-Fi. He had a Wi-Fi donkey. He knew exactly what was going on. Okay? Says the Gemara. What happened? Yom Achad, one day, Inshu Zuga Gesandli Allah. One day, someone put on top of the back of the donkey, Zugi Gesandli, a pair of sandals, and he forgot it. The donkey would not move until the guy came back. He saw the donkey is not going. So what did he do? He went back. He took away the sandals that were on the back of the donkey, and the donkey went home. Why? So as not to steal that which did not belong to Rabbi Yossi bar Minyukrat. Now the Gemara continues on and is going to tell us more about another one of what's it called, of these grapes that we found at that time. Elazar ish Birta, Elazar from Birta, anytime the Gaba'ei Tzedakah, they'd see him, the people who were collecting charity, who they would see him. So what did they do? They would run away from him. The kol night anything he had, he would give them. So they knew that he's giving them, literally, he could give them his last dollar because he was such a Ba'al Tzedakah and he cared so much for the poor. So whenever they'd see him, the Gabei Tzedakah would run away from them. Okay? Yom Echad, one day, one day, he was going out to the marketplace and he wanted to buy something for his daughter to get married. Again, the charity collectors saw him, and what happened? Again, they ran away from him. Unfortunately, what happened? He saw, so he ran after them. He said to them, swear, I'm making you swear. Okay, what are you collecting for? They said, for a orphan boy and an orphan girl we're collecting. He said to them, it's an expression of swearing. Shehen kodmin lebiti, a yatom and a yatoma. They have no one to look after them. They're more important. They have to take care of them even more than my child. At least my child has parents. So whatever, even if I help you, she has someone that will help her tomorrow. I go back to work, I could get more. But they have nothing. So what did he do? He took all the money he had, and he gave it to them. What did he have left? He had one zuz that he had left at the end of whatever they need. I imagine that the reason why he gave them everything but one zuz, when already he told us before that he would give you everything that he had, so how come he didn't give them the last zuz? The answer is that all they needed, let's say he had 10 zuz, was 9 zuz. So he gave them everything that they needed. All the expenses were now covered. So he had one zuz left. What did he do? Zevan bechiti. He went out and he bought with this one zuz, he bought a certain amount of wheat. The asik shadir ba'achlava. He took it, he brought it home, and he threw it in the cabinet, in the place where he stores the wheat, the granary. Atai Dvitu, his wife came. Amra la lebateh, she said to the daughter, my aiti avuch, what did your husband bring back for your dowry, for your wedding? Amra la, she says, call my the aiti, the achlav ashadite. I don't know what he brought, but whatever he brought, I saw him throw it into the granary. Ati the niftach bava de achlava. She went to open the door of the granary. Chazak achlava de malyachiti. Miraculously, the whole granary had become filled with wheat. The kanafka bitzinora dedasha. So much so that the wheat was sticking through all the empty holes in the door to the hinge of the door. The miftach bavid mechiti. The door was so packed and stuffed and penetrated by the wheat, it was jammed shut. Asla barte. The daughter went to the study house, to the Bet Midrash. Amra, she said to her father, come and see what the one who loves you so much has done for you, meaning what God has done for you. Amra, he said to her, I swear, I'm making all this money as if it belongs to the Beit HaMikdash. I'm sanctifying it. You have no more right to it than any of the poor of Am Yisrael. Why? Because he had a miracle happen to him. He did not want that the reward for his great act should be a miracle, because he understood there were much more important things that he could be rewarded with in this world and in the next than money. And if the whole point of all the money that he had was he was giving away to the poor people, how could you think that the reward that he would take would be from this? My friends, what you're seeing here in each one of these cases is a concept that each one of these the stories revolves around the fact that Rabbi Yossi ben Yukra, with his son, who made the te'ena tree grow early, and he provided this miracle, he didn't want to do that. Says the Ben Yehoyada, the Ben Yishchai explains that that's also the connection to the second story with the daughter. What happened? The guy is sitting there cutting a hole to look at his beautiful daughter. The same way we just had in the story before, that the rabbi before, what was his name? His name was Rav Yitzchak ben Eliashiv. The rabbi came to him and he said, Rav Mani, he said, I'm having troubles at home with my wife. He said, what's her name? Chana. Let her become beautiful. She became beautiful. Now he's having problems. She's getting too overbearing, too much. She's involved in herself. She's vain. She's haughty. She's arrogant because of her beauty. What did the rabbi say? That she should go back to Shachariteh. She should go back to her plainness. So the Gemara is really thinking in the back of its mind, 1 second, why did he have to say to his daughter, if he's worried, what should he do? Just make his daughter not as beautiful like the rabbi did in the story before. The answer is that we saw already from the story before that after the rabbi played with the way God laid out the hand, in each case, after changing God's plan to something else, he then reverted it back to the way it was before. So if that's the case, and the outcome of that was Rabbi Yitzchak ben Eliashiv said, I had the gift and I sent it away. I didn't want it anymore. I didn't want to mess with God's plan. Because you see in the end, he knows what he's doing. That's the case. Therefore, he didn't want to mess. He didn't want to bring the miraculous in to the story to change his daughter. So he told his daughter, look, if your beauty is causing that, it would be better if you weren't here. So be very careful with your beauty, depending on how you understand what it was that he was saying to his daughter. But in either scenario, we're finding a reticence on behalf of the great scholars to benefit from great miracles and to change the hand that God dealt because they just didn't believe that was the right thing to do. Let's finish off with this.
But aren't they messing with Hashem's plan by saying go back to, if the daughter was beautiful, that was part of Hashem's plan by saying, become dust or whatever he said. Isn't that messing with the plan just as much?
Oh, very good question. What's the difference? The concept of returning to dust is the natural order of things. The idea that someone should miraculously become beautiful or miraculously become not beautiful, miraculously become wealthy, miraculously become not wealthy, that's miraculous intervention. To say to someone that the natural order of things, which is going to happen to everybody, like they say, there's only two sure things, death and taxes, right? I always thought that the Gemara must have been written by Democrats if that was the case, right? Death and taxes. But the point is, if that's the case, so that's not a miraculous intervention. That's just kind of going back or reverting to what is the natural status quo. Whereas with these other cases, there was a miracle involved that was outside of the status quo. Okay, let's the Gemara. We're just going to finish with this one. You know what? Actually, this next piece is connected to what comes after it. So let's finish for here today. We are on 24a1 in the story of Rabbi Yehuda Nitziah. Okay, that's where we are. That's where we'll leave off. Hashem, we'll see you on Sunday. Sunday is Erev Yom Tov again, right?
Oh, yeah. Is it a different time because it's Hoshana Rabbah? Maybe a little longer.
I don't know. If you guys are up for it, what if we took some of a Hoshana Rabbah nighttime and did like a little bit of a learning session? What would you guys do?
That would be wild.
People are up the whole night. What if we spent a good chunk of time and covered like 2-3 pages? What do you think?
I'm going to be in video, but I could maybe join.
Me too. If you're okay for a video one, I would love that. I'm
okay. So you know what? Let's talk it through on the chat, and if not, then we'll figure out how to do it in a regular way on Sunday. I think that we can't push off Torah learning for Simchat Torah. That just makes no sense. The whole point is to rejoice in the Torah. Okay.